Oklahoma State steals the weekend. Volleyball conquers the road. And Unhooked brings you the best of Week 5 in college football. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to College Press Box. I'm your host, Jordan Sanchez. Thanks for spending your Monday night with us. Following a 43-50 loss in California, the Longhorns had a week off to prepare for their conference opener in Stillwater. However, not much would change defensively as Texas gave up 500-plus yards in their second straight game. Let's head down to Boone-Pickens Stadium for the highlights. 22nd ranked Longhorns took on Oklahoma State Cowboys in Texas' first conference game of the season. Oklahoma State's offense got off to a hot start and did not let up as Mason Rudolph finds James Washington for a 54-yard touchdown. Breaker 4-9. This man, Tyrone Swoops, getting it done in the 18-wheeler package, ties the game at 14 apiece. However, whoa, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Vincent Taylor pitches the ball after he blocks it to Trey Flowers, who takes it back 98 yards for a 2-point conversion. Oklahoma State had a lot to celebrate after that. On this next play, though, Shane Buechele steps back and finds tight end Andrew Beck for a 39-yard touchdown. Texas now down 25-23. Domingo's up again and blocked again. Texas would give up 10 points off of special teams based on misses. Mason Rudolph launches a 51-yard pass, good for another Cowboy touchdown. Rudolph would finish with 392 yards for the day with 3 touchdowns. Deontay Foreman trying to do it all on his own, but unfortunately can't carry the team completely on his back as Texas falls to OSU 49-31. Our own Jessica Robinson was in Stillwater to bring you an in-depth look at the game.
Coaching jobs in question as fans searched for a win going into the Oklahoma State game. But nothing is solidified after the Horns' first conference game resulted in a loss.
You can't play the way we played in the first half and expect to win a football game, especially when you're going on the road in an environment like this.
We had 2 stack-off games. We need to understand that's not who we are. And we need to go out and play defense because it's going to be important in this game.
We can't blame the defense for anything. That's we on offense for to score points. So whatever they do, we just got to go put up more points in them, and we didn't do that today.
The name of the game is to win. We didn't get that done. And we need to cut down on giving up big plays. If we do that, then we're going to be just fine.
Preparation wasn't enough as the Longhorns still have large strides to make on offense and defense.
You had guys in position. It's just we didn't finish, and we didn't finish the play with tackle. But we still got a lot of work to do. We still got a long ways to go. We just got to continue to just work.
I think this is the first time we've tackled that bad in a long time. I missed a couple of tackles, and it bothered me and got on my skin, but I tried to move on to the next play. And just seeing it happen was kind of hurtful because, guys, we do this every week. We practice tackle every week, and so to go out there and not see it happen was frustrating.
It's when you get out there and the ball snaps, you have to go and play and practice what you play.
Consistent failures on defense continue to be an issue for this young Texas team. The Longhorns look to execute what they practiced this week as they head to Dallas for the Red River rivalry.
This game coming up next week because it's going to be a big one. OU's been the dominant factor in the Big 12. They won it last year, and so now you got to go out there and execute, make plays.
We just have to have the confidence that we've had. We had 2 great wins at the beginning of the year. We just have to continue to get better.
2 back-to-back away losses follow the Longhorns as they head to their rivalry game. Big Tex will be watching to see if the Horns gain confidence and either rise or fall to their rival. Jessica Robinson, College Press Box.
Joining me tonight is football analyst Nick Kuholtz. Nick, how you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing great, Jordan. Glad to be on tonight.
Hey, happy to have you. A big concern following the Oklahoma State game was the state of the Texas defense. Earlier today, Charlie Strong spoke about his demotion of defensive coordinator Vance Bedford.
We have not played well our last 2 games, and it's just been our defensive performance. And knowing that we have a lot of talent on defense, we can play much better than what we played, and just unacceptable the way we played. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to run the defense, and I'm going to call the defense, and spoke with Coach Bedford about it, and he's going to coach the secondary, him and Clay Jennings, and it'll be great because we got a lot of young talent in that secondary. And there's been a lot of plays given up in the back end that we could get corrected.
Now, Nick, Charlie Strong is now taking the reins of defense. Do you think this was the right call for Texas? And what do you think Charlie needs to do to make sure he's back for another season?
Absolutely, I think it was the right call. And in fact, I think it's long overdue. It just wasn't working out with Vance Bedford as defensive coordinator. Now, he's specifically going to work with the secondary, and he has over 20 years of coaching experience with defensive backs individually. So I think his role is now better for him, and I think it's going to be better for the team as well. As for Charlie Strong, he's now demoted his 8th assistant in less than 3 seasons, and what he's doing now by saying, I'm calling the plays and this is my defense, he is taking full responsibility of the defensive side of the football. What that means is it's no longer Vance Bedford's fault, it's no longer anyone's fault except Charlie Strong's. He's the captain of the ship on defense, he's in charge of calling the plays, and he's in charge of whatever happens on the defensive side of the football. I do think it was a great decision. Again, while I think it's a few weeks too late, Charlie Strong now has to perform on defense. He's won 2 national championships as a defensive coordinator at the University of Florida, so he's been there before. Can he repeat that here in Austin? He needs to if he wants to keep his job.
Yeah, and Nick, you bring up a good point. You talked about Charlie in Florida and what he did there, and I think these past couple of seasons, he's definitely had to focus on the offense. So now that the offense is kind of in a good spot, I think it's great for him to come back and really just focus in on that defense. Chris Warren got ruled out of the OU game earlier today. Offensive lineman Patrick Vahey weighed in on having a 3rd true freshman on the field.
I'm very confident in him being back there. It doesn't change the fact that Chris Warren is not going to be there. Kyle Porter plays just as well as Chris Warren and Deontay Foreman. So really, him being back there, he's always going to make plays. And so, as an O-lineman blocking for him, really, there's no hesitation in having him back there. He's just another player, and we're just another O-line blocking for him.
The Texas offense is averaging 517 yards per game, with 261 of those coming from the ground. With Chris Warren ruled out and Deontay coming off of an injury, Nick, what do you think Gilbert needs to do to keep his offense moving?
Well, obviously now with these injuries, the Longhorns have no choice but to rely on the passing game a little bit more than they usually do. Now, they have a lot of wide receiver depth on this football team. They need to take chances. They're the underdog in this game. Don't be afraid to take risks. I want to see more deep balls. Shane Buechele's been battling a rib injury these past few weeks, but I think it's time now. If he's 100% ready to go on Saturday, take the chance. I want to see the long ball. I want to see Shane Buechele throw more deep balls on the sideline. Texas has been playing very safe, throwing 6-yard outs. It's time for them to spread the field a little bit more. Now, obviously, they have to rely on the rushing game a little bit. Hopefully for the Horns, Deontay Foreman is clear and ready to go on Saturday. He's going to play, but whether or not he's 100% healthy could make a huge difference in the game. They obviously, as you mentioned, Kyle Porter, they're going to have to rely on him for a lot of carries. He's going to have to perform as a true freshman and hurt his first Red River rivalry game. So the Horns are going to have to run the ball. Oklahoma has a not very good secondary, but their rush defense is one of the top 5 in the country. So the Longhorns are going to have to find a way to pass the ball, but also gain some on the ground against a very good Oklahoma rush defense.
Yeah, the Texas versus OU rivalry definitely runs deep for both teams. However, this game has a chance to bring some revenge for a Texas defensive end, Breckenhager.
Yes, OU, I've known my entire life is our huge rival. We got to go beat them. OU sucks, right? But also Baker Mayfield, he beat me when he was a senior and I was a sophomore at Westlake, and I'm still salty about that. And I didn't get to play in the game last year, but I felt the energy because I was injured, and I still have those emotions in me. I'm just so excited. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Now, with the Texas defense struggling and special teams really having a poor performance out there on Saturday, what does Texas need to do to prepare for this rivalry against OU?
Defensively, they have to fix it. They missed 30 tackles on Saturday against Oklahoma State. Completely unacceptable. They have to figure it out. Oklahoma, again, is a very good team. Texas needs to do 4 things on defense. They have to pressure Baker Mayfield. They have to limit big plays from Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon. They have to get off the field on 3rd down. And most importantly, they have to force turnovers. The Longhorns beat OU last year without trailing for a single second in the game. A big chunk of that was because Texas won the turnover battle. Texas forced a fumble against UTEP back in week 2. That's the only turnover they've caused this entire season. They have to win the turnover battle overall. They have to fix their play defensively. The offense is going to score points. They have in all 4 games this season. It's going to come down to how well the defense can play. And if the Horns, they're going to get a lot better because they get Holton Hill back this weekend. I think he's the best cornerback on this football team. But if the Horns want to come out with a win on Saturday against their arch rival in the Cotton Bowl, they still have a ton they need to fix.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just thanks for coming out tonight, Nick. Always appreciate your expertise.
Pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
Now we'll see if Texas can turn things around for this weekend. When we return, James Grachos will be joining me to discuss how the rest of Texas athletics stacked up this weekend. We'll be right back. Alongside me right now is James. He likes nachos, Grachos.
Boy, I never want to be introduced like that ever again, but thank you. I'm always happy to be here.
So volleyball continued their conference play this past week as they took on both Oklahoma and Kansas State on the road. On Wednesday night, the Lady Longhorns kissed the Sooners goodbye, winning 3-1. Freshman Micaiah White led Texas' offensive charge, finishing with 26 kills while recording her 2nd double-double of the season. The team continued their road stretch, playing Kansas State on Saturday night. It took 5 sets, but the Horns took down the Wildcats, improving their conference record to 4-0.
That Micaiah White, wham bam, that is what she's doing at the net. But also Texas cross country was in play, both men's and women's. They faced their first ranked opponents this weekend as they competed in the Notre Dame Invitational. Not a great start for either squad as they both failed to finish in the top half. But the silver lining is that both teams were able to run past at least one ranked opponent, Vanderbilt for the women and Florida State for the men. The sentiment from coaches and players is that there is a lot of room for improvement as they go to Penn State in 2 weeks.
Yet another Longhorn was in Stillwater this weekend as freshman Bianca Turati represented Texas in the UTSA Pro Circuit event. Turati was eliminated in the semifinals after nearly 3 hours of play. Definitely an impressive run for the native Italian freshman. Heading now to the West Coast, sophomore Katie Paluto was in California as she picked up a pre-qualifying singles win at the ITA All-American Championships.
Men's tennis is in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a little while as they got going with the ITA All-American as well. This tournament is the first of 4 individual national championship events on the college tennis calendar. A few Horns were already in, such as leaders Harrison Scott and John Mee, but sophomore Rodrigo Banzer and freshman Christian Sigsgaard still had some work to do, but they went 2-0 and qualified for the preliminary rounds, which are underway as we speak.
Men's golf is in Fort Worth for the Nike Collegiate Invitational. Senior Gavin Hall shot a 68 on Sunday and followed with a 71 today, giving the 5th-ranked Longhorns a tie for 8th heading into the final round. Texas will tee off tomorrow morning at 7:30.
Big stuff for men's golf. And it was a disastrous weekend for Texas soccer as they fell to Big 12 rivals Oklahoma State and Kansas. They are now 0-3-1 in conference play as the goal scoring continues to be the crux of the squad. Sunday, the Big 12 leading Jayhawks were outshot by the Horns, but the execution was certainly lacking as Kansas would squeak out a 1-0 win on an 86th-minute goal. On Friday, here against Oklahoma State, it was probably Coach Kelly's most disappointing loss of the season after really dictating play and possession. Texas midi Kyra Dolis knocked in a 67th minute header, but it was not enough as the Cowboys came out with the win in extra time. Our own Grant Michaels was there on Friday.
The Texas Longhorns played host to Oklahoma State under a beautiful Saturday night sunset where both teams were looking to notch their first Big 12 conference win of the season.
We had opportunities to put more than one goal in the back of the net, so we have to continue to do that. continue to create like we were, but be a little bit more dangerous in the attacking box. And it comes down to that.
Despite the Longhorns' 16 corner kicks, they were unable to put the Oklahoma State Cowgirls away, which then led to overtime. And eventually, the Cowgirls came up on top and notched their first Big 12 victory of the season.
Always a concern if you can't close out games, but I think that if we keep practicing, keep our heads up, it's just one game at a time.
We were, but be a little bit more dangerous in the attacking box. And it comes down to that.
This was the third straight game where Texas had a 1-0 lead and failed to win the game. Goal scoring is clearly an issue, and it's only going to get more difficult as leading goal scorer Alexa Adams went down with an injury. The extent of her injury is unknown right now, but it does not spell well in the middle of Big 12 play for the Horns.
Sir, James, it just seems like Oklahoma State was too much for the Longhorns this weekend.
It was a disaster. There's no other way of saying it.
Well, coming up, Unhooked will take you through the best of Week 5 in college football. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to College Press Box's newest segment, Unhooked. I'm Katarina Bean-Carty alongside Emily Stone, where we're going to shift our focus past the 40 acres to recap college football Week 5.
Week 5 was predicted to be thrilling, and Kat, it delivered. 3 top 10 matchups, new coaches being tested, and game-costing mistakes highlighted this weekend.
Sure it did, Emily, and we put together 4 awards defining this exhilarating weekend in college football. For our best moment, the Tennessee Volunteers won on a Hail Mary in the final 30 seconds against Georgia.
With 3 lead changes in the last 3 minutes, this game was already exciting, but the last play had everybody surprised.
It sure did. And with 4 seconds on the clock, quarterback Josh Dobbs is looking deep, trying to find somebody in the Tennessee end zone to try to make that touchdown. And sure enough, he does. He finds wide receiver Jawan Jennings. Tennessee defeats Georgia 34-31. Sweet victory for the Vols. Butch Jones cannot believe it. And you know what a moment that was, Emily.
That was just such a highlight to the weekend in the SEC after such a rough week, with everything that went on. And
so moving on to this exciting, rough thing that happened with LSU with Les Miles being fired. Firing a coach in the middle of the season is difficult for any program. And fans have been skeptical if interim head coach Ed Orgeron could continue the winning legacy Les Miles left behind. So, Emily, what do you think? Has Orgeron proved himself?
Kat, he proved himself this weekend. LSU defeated Missouri 42-7 at Tiger Stadium. Plus, LSU broke the school record for most yards in an SEC matchup with 634 yards. This was the Tigers' first win under the interim head coach, and it gives hope to Tiger fans for the rest of the season. So our coaching comeback award goes out to Ed Orgeron.
Sure it does. Now moving on to the next award, the best defensive play was found in the Wisconsin versus Michigan game. Stakes were made high because this was a top 10 and conference matchup.
Wisconsin quarterback is looking for the ball, and Alex Hornibrook throws down the middle of the field and to number 17, George Rushings, and Jordan Lewis single-handedly intercepts the ball, giving a win to Michigan. Those fans look excited. People were excited. It was a great play.
For sure. It looked like Odell Beckham Jr. re-entered the NCAA, but no, it was Michigan's heir, Jordan Lewis. A one-arm interception sealed the win for the Wolverines against the Badgers.
College football is halfway complete, and that means there's a Heisman winner on the hunt, and all eyes are on the Heisman candidate predictions. This past weekend gave some ups and downs in the rankings, so Kat, who moved up and who moved down?
Well, Emily, rising in the rankings is Clemson's Deshaun Watson. Watson finished the game against Louisville with 305 passing yards and 5 touchdown passes. And with Watson going up, 2015 runner-up Christian McCaffrey fell down.
In Stanford's game against Washington, McCaffrey fell short, putting up only 49 rushing yards on 12 carries and 30 yards on 5 catches. And Kat, this type of play is not going to impress Heisman voters going into the rest of McCaffrey's season.
It sure isn't. But our time is coming to a close on Unhooked, so we'll round out our awards with the best final seconds of Week 5. The Carolina Tar Heels snapped Florida State's 22 home winning streak, and it all came down to the final seconds of game regulation.
The Tar Heels built an early 21 lead against number 12 Florida State, but lost every bit of it when the Seminoles came back and took the lead in the fourth quarter.
They sure did. And with 23 seconds on the clock, Carolina drove 38 yards in 3 plays and setting up for kicker Nick Weiler for a 54-yard field goal attempt. And what did he do, Emily?
And sure enough, he nailed it. Entering Saturday, Weiler had never attempted over 50 yards.
This was Carolina's second straight win that came down to the final seconds. Victory for Carolina means the Hills now have a spot in the top 25. Emily, Weekend 5 lived up to the hype. Can you say so?
I can definitely say so.
So this is all we have for Unhooked.
Coming up, we take a look at what's to come this week in Longhorn sports. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, and thanks for spending your Monday night with us. Let's take a look at what's going on this week in Texas sports. On Tuesday, men's golf will finish up their Texas Collegiate Invitational in Fort Worth. Tuesday through Sunday, men's tennis is at the ITA All-American, while women's tennis is also at the ITA All-American. Friday, soccer takes on Kansas State at 7 p.m., and Friday through Sunday, men's tennis is at the Houston Futures. Saturday, football takes on OU in the Red River Rivalry, 11 a.m. on FS1. Volleyball plays Iowa State at 7 p.m. and Rowing at head of Brazos. On Sunday, women's golf is at the Jim West Invitational. Women's tennis is at Rock Hill 25K. Before we go, we just wanted to congratulate lifetime Longhorn Jordan Spieth in the United States for winning the Ryder Cup. It's been 8 years since the trophy has been in the States, and the U.S. did it in style, winning 17-11, their largest margin of victory since 1981. That does it for tonight's episode of College Press Box. You can catch us on the network every Monday night at 9:30. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at College Press Box to get the latest updates on all Longhorn sports. For some of the best sports debates on the 40 Acres, be sure to catch our sister show, College Crossfire, airing Wednesdays at 9 p.m. From all of us in Master Control, the studio, and myself, we'd like to thank you for joining us on your Monday night.